Those with a weak heart should stay away from this video and close their eyes. There's no need to watch it. The way the story is told is unique and captivating on its own. The village of Black Hollow was surrounded by a vast forest that locals feared more than death itself. The trees were ancient, their twisted branches blocking the moonlight and creating endless darkness beneath their canopy. For generations, people spoke of strange disappearances. Hunters entered the woods and never returned. Travelers vanished without leaving footprints. Even animals refused to go near the deepest part of the forest, known as the Silent Zone. Ethan Carter, a 24-year-old photographer, dismissed these stories as superstitious nonsense. He had spent years chasing myths and exposing them as ordinary events. When he heard about Black Hollow, he decided to document the forest and prove there was nothing supernatural hiding there. One cold autumn evening, he packed his camera equipment and entered the woods alone. At first, everything seemed normal. The wind rustled through the leaves, and distant owls called from the darkness. But as he walked deeper, the forest became unnaturally silent. No insects buzzed, no birds sang, even the wind disappeared. The silence felt heavy, almost alive. Ethan noticed something strange on the trees. Hundreds of symbols had been carved into the bark, symbols that looked ancient and impossible to understand. Some were stained with what appeared to be dried blood. As darkness settled over the forest, he decided to camp near a clearing. While reviewing his photographs, he noticed a shadowy figure standing between the trees in one image. He was certain nobody had been there when he took the picture. Thinking it was a trick of light, he continued checking the photos. Yet the figure appeared again and again. In every image it was closer. In the final photograph, taken only minutes earlier, the figure stood directly behind him. Ethan's blood ran cold. He slowly turned around. Nothing was there. Trying to calm himself, he entered his tent and attempted to sleep. Around midnight, he awoke to the sound of footsteps circling the tent. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The footsteps moved slowly, as if someone was walking around him in perfect circles. Ethan grabbed his flashlight and unzipped the tent. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing empty trees and thick fog. Suddenly, he heard a whisper behind him. It was faint but unmistakable. Someone had spoken his name. He spun around, but there was nobody there. Then the whisper came again, this time from another direction. Ethan. The voice sounded distorted, neither male nor female. Fear tightened in his chest. He packed his gear and decided to leave immediately. As he hurried through the woods, he noticed that the trees seemed different. Paths that should have led out of the forest now ended abruptly. Landmarks had vanished. It was as if the forest itself was changing. Hours passed. He walked endlessly but found no exit. Then he saw lights in the distance and rushed toward them, believing he had found the village. Instead, he discovered a circle of wooden crosses planted in the ground. Hanging from each cross was a faded photograph. Trembling, Ethan approached one of them. The face in the picture belonged to a missing hiker reported years earlier. Another photo showed a hunter. Another showed a child. There were dozens, maybe hundreds. Then he found a freshly attached photograph at the center of the circle. It was a picture of him, taken only hours before. Beneath it, carved into the wood, were words that made his heart stop. You were chosen the moment you entered. A low growl echoed through the darkness. The fog thickened. Something enormous moved between the trees. Ethan could hear branches snapping under its weight. Whatever was watching him was no longer hiding. It was coming closer. Panic consumed Ethan as he ran blindly through the forest. Behind him, the sound of crashing branches grew louder. He dared not look back. His lungs burned and his legs trembled with exhaustion, but the thing chasing him never seemed to slow down. After several minutes, he stumbled upon an abandoned stone church hidden among the trees. Desperate for shelter, he rushed inside and slammed the heavy wooden door shut. The church was ancient and covered in dust. Broken pews lined the floor, and strange symbols covered every wall. In the center stood a massive statue draped in black cloth. Ethan's flashlight flickered as he explored the building. Then he noticed writing carved into the altar. "It wears the faces of the dead." Before he could understand the message, a loud thud shook the church door. Another followed, then another. Something outside was trying to get in. The wood groaned under the impact. Ethan backed away. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Ethan, help me." It was his mother's voice. Impossible. She lived hundreds of miles away. Slowly, he turned around. Standing at the far end of the church was his mother, or something pretending to be her. Her smile stretched too wide. Her eyes were completely black. "Come here," she whispered. Ethan ran toward a staircase leading underground. The church door exploded inward behind him as an enormous shadow entered the building. He raced down into a network of tunnels beneath the church. The air smelled of decay. Bones littered the ground. Thousands of names had been scratched into the stone walls. As he moved deeper, he discovered a chamber filled with photographs. Every missing person from Black Hollow was there. Some pictures were over a century old. At the center of the room stood an ancient journal. Ethan opened it and learned the horrifying truth. Long ago, villagers had summoned a creature from somewhere beyond human understanding. The entity fed on fear and souls. It could mimic voices, faces, and memories. Every few years, it selected new victims and dragged them into the forest. The villagers had tried to imprison it beneath the church, but the prison eventually failed. As Ethan read the final page, a cold breath touched the back of his neck. He slowly turned around. The creature stood only a few feet away. Its body was impossibly tall and thin. Hundreds of human faces twisted across its skin, each silently screaming. Some faces cried, some laughed, some begged for mercy. Ethan recognized several from the photographs above. The creature opened a mouth that split its entire torso and released a sound unlike anything human. The walls shook. The lights died. Ethan ran deeper into the tunnels, but every passage led back to the monster. Every direction ended with its smiling faces waiting in the darkness. Finally, he reached a dead end. There was nowhere left to go. The creature approached slowly. One of the faces on its body suddenly changed. It became Ethan's own face. Then another appeared, and another. Dozens of copies of him stared back with hollow eyes. The last thing he heard was his own voice whispering, "Now you belong to us." The following morning, search teams entered the forest looking for Ethan. They found his camera near the church entrance, but no trace of him. When investigators examined the final photograph stored on the memory card, they discovered a disturbing image. It showed the interior of the underground chamber. Standing among hundreds of trapped faces was Ethan Carter. His eyes were black, his mouth stretched into an unnatural grin, and behind him loomed the towering creature. To this day, anyone who views that photograph for too long claims to see Ethan move slightly closer to the camera each time they look away, as if he is slowly crawling out of the image and into the real world.